Hi, my name is Pawel Pogorzelski, cinematographer on Hereditary and Midsommar, and you're listening to the Go Creative Show.
Hey everyone, my name is Ben Consoli. I am a director and owner of BC Media Productions. And this is the Go Creative Show, the show dedicated to creative professionals in the video production and filmmaking industries. Today we go behind the scenes of two of the most critically acclaimed thrillers, Midsommar and Hereditary, with cinematographer Pawel Pogorzelski. The Go Creative Show is supported by Rule Boston Camera. Buy, rent, and create with Rule.com. Hedge.video, the fastest way to back up media. Shutterstock.com, Magnanimous Rentals, and PremiumBeat.com. Premium, royalty-free music and sound. Well, this is basically an episode just for me. I hope it's for you guys too, honestly. But, I mean, Midsommar and Hereditary are my two favorite movies from the past couple of years. I absolutely love these. The combination of Pawel's work with director Ari Aster is just phenomenal, and I can't wait for you guys to hear the interview that I have in store for you with Pawel. It's just, we talk about everything. How did he light the films, the comparisons between the two? I mean, everybody's talking about Midsommar right now and how it's shot in complete daylight, and the story behind that is incredible. You guys are going to absolutely love this one. But a couple of things first. I want you guys to go to our Instagram, our Twitter, and our Facebook and subscribe to all three. The reason why is because, as you'll hear in this episode, we are taking audience questions and incorporating them into the show. And that's the best way to get your voice heard on the Go Creative Show. So anytime we have a guest coming up, we're going to post on all of our social media who it is, and you'll get an opportunity to ask your questions, and we'll ask it on the show. So you're going to hear some audience questions in this episode, and we love doing that. So please follow us across all of those three places, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and then you will get an opportunity to have your voice heard. All right, let's take a minute and talk about Shutterstock.com. Shutterstock, yes. It's a stock footage website. I mean, you guys know it. You use it. I talk about it all the time. They've got music. They've got photos. They got video, tons of 4K, millions and millions and millions of clips on there. But I want to bring your attention to their blog because it's awesome. And we don't talk that much about it, but we should be. You go to Shutterstock.com, you click on blog, and they've got really great articles here in all sorts of areas. They talk about design. They talk about, of course, video production, editing. My favorite, honestly, is the business section. Now, I know even if you guys aren't running technically a business, you're still your own, you're your own business. Even if you're just an individual cinematographer or an editor or whatever, you still are kind of a business, the business of you. And all of these tips can be really valuable for you guys. So head over there and check it out, Shutterstock.com. Click on blog. And just take a look. Give yourself a half an hour. Look around. You're going to learn a lot here about our production business and some tips to help you. I mean, I've been doing this for 15 years now, and I still go to that website and find new, interesting ideas because this industry is ever changing, and Shutterstock they've got their finger on the pulse of what's going on, and they give you a ton of tips. So check it out, Shutterstock.com, click on blog, and enjoy. Okay, it's time to dive into our interview with Pawel Pogorzelski. So I'm here with Pawel Pogorzelski, the director of photography for Midsommar and Hereditary, and so happy to have you on, Pawel. Thanks so much for being on.
Thank you so much, Ben, for having me.
The pleasure is all ours, and I have to say, honestly, I've always been a kind of a thriller horror movie fan, but I never really liked the big slasher film stuff. I kind of like the more cerebral kind of horror films, I guess, if you can call it that. Like of the last few years, my favorite films, of which two of them you shot, were The Witch, Hereditary, and now Midsommar. Like this is a genre that I'm obsessed with, and I think you guys have been really raising this art form up to its heights that really I've never seen anything like this.
Wow, thank you. That's quite that's an honor, yeah.
Well, I certainly appreciate that. I'd love to talk to you about just your working relationship with Ari Aster, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Yep. He was the director for both films, and he just seems like a very interesting person to be working with. He seems to be a real visionary. And I'd love to kind of start there. How did you guys meet and how did you start working together?
We met at AFI in 2008. We both went to AFI, him as a director, me as a cinematographer. And in the first 2 weeks, I think we met with he had a director that he was having lunch with that was meeting a DP friend of mine. So I tagged along and, it was like a double date kind of a thing with two directors, two DPs meeting. And we met there and talked about movies, and then he made me watch some movies that I haven't heard about. He made me watch Come and See, the Russian film, and I was blown away by it. And then we just started talking about, what kind of stuff we want to do, and just fell in love with, one another. We did a short film together in the first year. They're like short films, exercises you did with different directors. And from there on, we knew we wanted to work together. So we almost right away teamed up for a thesis. Everyone would do that like at the end of the first year. And we did it halfway in, right after we shot our short. We're like, okay, we're doing our thesis together, even though we don't know what it is.
Wow.
And then we shot The Strange Thing About the Johnsons. And, from there on, we kept shooting, trying to make a name for ourselves as a team. So when Hereditary came up, my goal was to shoot as much, feature-wise, so that knowing that, because I read Hereditary years before it was made, so I knew it was coming up, and I knew it was going to be, a budget of like a couple of $1 million, and for me to be able to shoot it, I had to make movies of that range so that the producers could have an incentive to hire me. So that was my goal, just to raise my career status to be viable for the producers and investors to hire me to shoot a first-time director's movie. Because first-time directors, they usually want to pair them with older DPs that have more experience. But what really helped Ari to hire me for this one was our shorthand, and our producer Lars Knudsen, who now does who did Midsommar as well, and hopefully keep working with us, really valued the shorthand, and for him that was very a big plus. So for him it was like, yeah, for sure, like let's hire Pawel on this project. And thankfully, because that if I would have missed that boat, holy shit, I'd be in a different space right now.
Well, it's interesting to hear you say that. So you knew that the film was going to be made, and you had enough time to it seems like that would be something that moves pretty quickly. And it says like you made it seem like you knew about the film, and then you went to go do other films similar in budget in order to get this film. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, you did. I've read that, with Ari, we would jog around together, and he would just pitch me movies. So I was there when he pitched Hereditary for the first time and read the first script. And this was probably like 4 years before it got made. Wow. So I saw it coming, and I knew that someone's going to make this. And when it gets made, it won't be $1 million or $2 million. It'll be more than that. So I had to be ready for that and make myself desirable to get hired.
So you feel like with the state of your portfolio at that time, you wouldn't have been able to get that job without having plunged into other films first?
For sure. Yeah.
So that's interesting to me. So I guess it makes sense that if you have a brand new director, you have to have an experienced DP, because I guess they want somebody on set that has done this before. You can't have two first timers.
Investment. Yeah, exactly.
What was the film that you did that kind of got you over the edge?
It's funny looking back at life, like how it was this little thing I did for free one day. Two things I did for free. One that was like with these young kids from USC. that were making a little TV pilot or like a TV show for the internet. And then another friend from AFI, who was an editor, wanted to direct, and he did this little short Patchwork. And then these two people met a few months later to make a feature film called Patchwork for like $70,000, 10-day shoot, or like $100,000, 10-day shoot. And they called me to do that. So I did that with them for no money, and that led to Tragedy Girls. That was like a $4 million movie. Which helped the investors get me on Hereditary. Was part of the help. So yeah, it was just that coincidence of people knowing each other, getting me on stuff. And then there was a few other movies that I did in Canada that also helped me. That were also like $1.2 million movies that just, helped my portfolio.
So now Hereditary is here. You're signed on to be the DP for it. What excited you most about that script?
I think the story, the journey of the characters, the family drama. The thing that excited me the most was the dinner scene, when Toni Collette, or like everything that leads to that dinner scene where Toni Collette explodes, in anger on Alex, on Peter.
Yeah.
I think Ari has really beautiful writing. I went through something similar. I had loss in my family, and I remember having a very close kind of dinner like that, but we went the other way, where actually we're able to make that loss into something that built the family and made it better. So, but we were like on this thin thread that it could have went either way. But the way he wrote it really like resonated with me, and I was like, oh my God, like you captured that moment so well on the script. So the writing, like really, I just loved the writing. And for me, it was a film about grief. A lot of it was like grief, and something that I was very close to at that point in my life.
There's certainly common threads between both Midsommar and Hereditary in that they are stories of grief.
Yes.
But they're told in such different ways, visually, certainly. Hereditary is extraordinarily dark. Midsommar is extraordinarily light, and we're going to get into all of that for sure. But I want to start with the look of Hereditary, because, I mean, these two films their connection is simply just you and Ari. They're not sequels, they're not connected storyline-wise, but there is something that binds them that just feels like they need and should be seen together in a weird way. I think probably because of how opposite they are visually. So I do want to talk about them both, and I hope you don't mind about that. But I'd like to start with Hereditary and just see, where did the inspiration for that look come from? Because you are just as extreme on the dark side in Hereditary as you are in the extreme on the light side with Midsommar.
For that, it was the big reference was Kieślowski's red, three colors red, red, white, blue, the red one. And tone. There's something in the tone there that really served as a foundation for building the look. And with that, we went to Panavision and created lenses with Panavision, or adjusted their Primo lenses. They have like these detuning things they can do to the lenses to take away some of the sharpness, some of the soften the blacks a little bit for us, and take the edge off the sharpness on the lenses. So we did that for 3 days over there. Once that was created, we took that, shot some tests, and created a LUT for the camera that made it a little bit darker and gave that color palette that we ended having. And then once the lenses were set and the LUT was set, and we were in prep, I used that with my gaffer and my key grip to then test how far we could go comfortably, how dark we could go comfortably. So we did the 2-day lighting test on the stage with some stand-ins, and just tested like the quality of light that we wanted, the transitions, how the light would progress. So it was just a long process of creating that look that was, step by step getting there to find it.
Now, did you underexpose at all while filming this, or did you just let the LUT and the colorists bring it down to those deep, rich blacks?
No, that was pretty much what I think I gave myself a little bit of latitude. So the LUT was a little bit darker. So I was lighting it a little bit more just so that the blacks could be really rich, and I wasn't lifting them too much. But it was pretty much what we were getting on set. And, at times it was scary because it had to be bold and like, all right, we're gonna go this dark, and that's it.
Do you have a favorite shot or a favorite scene? Now, I know you mentioned that when reading the script, you'd said that dinner scene was one of your favorites, one of the standouts. Was there a scene or a shot from Hereditary that really challenged you, that you're really proud of?
Yeah. Actually, there's one. It's a tiny, probably someone people won't think about, but when Peter bikes home at night, and then drops his bike and enters home, and we push into the car that's there to find then Toni Collette sitting in the car, and then we pan like 180 degrees to see her leave. That was a very challenging shot for like how much lighting play was in that to hide Toni Collette and dim up some lights on her just at the right moment to reveal her. And there's a lot of it was done practically, and we're trying to get it at magic hour, but it was too bright and it became a night scene, and we had to quickly relight it for night scene as, the pressure was on, and people were like, we gotta go. So that one is like a simple one that like probably most people won't think like, oh, that was interesting. But for me, it was just like a challenging of like how quickly I had to think on my feet to flip something from, a magic hour scene to a night scene, and then relight it in like almost no time on this shot that we see almost, over 180 degrees around. So, yeah.
Yeah, making a change like that on the fly, that's a dramatic change, especially when I'm sure you had very tight schedule for a film, and that wasn't an expensive film.
No, yeah, that was that's something that I was quite proud of like getting it and figuring that out pretty quickly. It was pretty cool.
So Hereditary's out. It becomes a big success. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, definitely one of my favorite. I am not just saying that. It is. Ever since I saw that film, I've been telling everybody, you have to see it, you have to see it, you have to see it. It's my kind of film for sure. So it's out, it's successful. When do you start planning for Midsommar? Or did you already kind of have that ready to go?
We were, when Hereditary came out, we were already in Hungary in prep for Midsommar.
Wow, okay.
So we knew, I think we knew when we wrapped, close to when we wrapped Hereditary, that Midsommar was next. It was already written. At some point back in the history, it was supposed to go before Hereditary, but so we knew it was going to happen soon. And then as the success, we were in Hungary as the success was coming out.
Wow.
In prep for this next movie. So it was. I mean, Ari is a monster. Like, he was doing interviews and he was flying and doing prep for Midsommar. Like, he is a hero to me. Like, it's insane how hardworking this guy is, and he deserves every success he has. Yeah, he's amazing. Like, seeing him at that period of time, juggling those two movies at the same time, like literally at the same time, being in prep for one while doing, interviews for one that just came out. It was crazy.
When do you know that it's a success? Like, do you get a call? Does somebody say, hey, you broke this record? Like, when do you know? Because, I mean, you're knee deep in another project. For all intents and purposes, you're done. Like, it's over. You did it. It's out. It is what it is. But is there like a moment where you both looked at each other and were like, oh my God, this is a hit?
We actually, that moment did happen, but it happened at Sundance when it wasn't finished yet, but it premiered at Sundance.
Yeah.
And I remember very clearly just before the premiere at the midnight screening, there was, we were with A24, the producers, in a little bar, and the tension was just like, I remember being very nervous and being like, okay, this could change my career, and my career could like suddenly become something if this goes well, or it could, I keep struggling and keep fighting to make it.
Wow.
Hereditary didn't play that well in the test screening, so that's why we had no idea how it's going to play. And that screening was very important. There's a lot of press and people, and like if it was a good screening, like it meant like, this would be good for us. And then the next morning we woke up and the press was like super excited about the movie. So we're like, oh shit, all right, this is going to change. So yeah, it's like, you wake up in the morning and your life, has suddenly changed. So that was pretty dope.
Oh, what a moment. Let's take a moment and talk about Magnanimous Rentals over at magrents.com. Well, Magnanimous is a production equipment rental house. They're based in Chicago, but they ship anywhere in the country. So anybody anywhere in the country is able to take advantage of what I am about to say. Magrents.com, they have a great inventory, but really their biggest thing is their prices. Their prices cannot be beat. They just can't be beat. In fact, they have 3 different pricing. Their regular pricing is there on the site. It's just in regular black font, so you see it, and it's already great. But then they have blue prices that are dynamic prices, and these auto lower below regular price. They change every day, so you have to make sure that you go there on a regular basis. And then also they have flash discounts. Now, these are in red, and these are steeply discounted, but very limited time offers. And they've got some amazing stuff. I mean, I rented an Alexa Mini from them for, I think it was like 2 or 3 days, and it was less than $1,000. I think it was $800-something, which is an insane price for an Alexa Mini. Now, I can't promise you that when you go to the site, there'll be a flash discount at that moment, but it doesn't matter because you go to magrents.com every day and check it out. That's the way you take advantage of these prices. And here's the best part. Your order doesn't have to deliver during the time period of the flash discount. You just have to place the order. So you can place the order during the flash discount, take advantage of it, and your shoot could be months away. Doesn't matter. That's the whole point. So head over to magrents.com and check out what they have to offer. I know you're going to love it. And lastly, let's talk about Hedge. Hedge is a backup software for filmmakers. It's super fast. It's very, very easy. You can import multiple sources and send it to multiple destinations at the same time, which is great for me because, and great for you, I'm assuming too, because on set, I get a whole bunch of different cards. You get multiple cameras, you get a behind the scenes person taking photos, you get audio, blah, 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 it goes on and on. So I can import all of those sources, and they're right there on the left-hand column, and then set my destinations on the right-hand column. And I usually set 2 destinations because I like to have a double backup of everything. And then I press transfer and I just let it go. It's the fastest way to do your transfer. You have peace of mind because you know it's being done correctly. And if you get the Hedge Connect app for your phone, you will get a notification when the transfer is done. So they've covered all of their bases. This is professional software. This is a replacement to just dragging and dropping files all over the Finder. I mean, don't do that. Your footage is the most important thing that you have. And you want to treat it with the respect and with the software that it needs. I mean, let's be honest. It's time to use professional software. It's time to use Hedge. Go to hedge.video/Go Creative Show. You get a 20% off discount of the full license. And there are a few different other license options there as well. So check it out. Hedge.video/Go Creative Show. Let's dive into Midsommar. I saw it yesterday. is so crazy. It's insanity.
It is insanity. Yeah.
I mean, it really, really is. And what I found really interesting about it is it's you know where it's going, but the way it gets there is you are completely shocked. Like it's constantly shocking you toward an end that you kind of know is coming. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's weird. It's like, in this case, you know, when you like kind of know what's going to happen, sometimes you can disconnect from the film because you're like, I know where it's going. But the path there in this film, it almost helped to know that where it was going to go, because it made you stay with it and want to know how crazy is this going to get. It was just fantastic and beautifully shot. I mean, it really was great. It's a masterpiece.
Wow, thank you. Oh man, that means a lot. That means a lot. Thank you so much.
All right, no more congratulations. Now we're going to get down to the nitty gritty, because I want to know how this thing was shot and how you developed this look and what the challenges were. Let's start with probably the biggest visual topic, the fact that you're creating something that's terrifying in the daylight, something that's very, very challenging to do. How did that first come to you? Is that something that Ari had said, we're doing this in daylight? How did that happen?
I don't remember. Like, it's funny because I've had those questions come up to me. I don't remember that conversation. It felt like, to me, Midsommar was always bright. It was always, even like, I remember like the test day when I first tested the cameras way back. I tested them in the middle of the day at noon in Los Angeles, and the brightest, point of the day, and it always felt that way. Maybe because when he pitched it to me during our jogging runs, it was just that, and it always was a bright film drenched in the sunlight.
Were you concerned at all that, I mean, that's like the worst time to shoot. That's what everybody avoids, is that like direct, noontime direct sunlight. I mean, what were your initial thoughts when you were like trying to figure out how to plan to light and shoot this?
Just a rock and roll attitude. Like, let's do it. Like let's let's do it. For a long time, I was very excited because we were going to shoot in Sweden, and the sun has a different path in Sweden. But then, when we're in Hungary, when we decided to shoot for Hungary for financial reasons, I was like, we'll have more of this very harsh top sun, and then tried to figure out plans of how to control it. And then when I saw the field that we're going to shoot on, all those plans went to garbage because that field was ginormous. I was like, there's no way I can cover anything here. This is so big.
Yeah.
And we always seeing, 360 in a day, and moving to cover a 60 by 60 feet, overhead. It takes a 300-ton truck to come and hang it, and that takes 4 hours to move. So I was like, okay, I can't hang anything overhead, so I'm just gonna embrace the sun. When it's at noon, and that's it. And then just did tons of testing of what direction should the camera be facing, what direction should people be facing, and how to control the contrast. So it was a process of learning what the film wanted to be, knowing that it wanted to be bright, and knowing that that people were gonna wear white costumes, and then all right, choosing the right tools, the right camera, the best camera that I could that had the latitude, the right lenses that would give me a glow from these whites, and then embracing the fact that it will be just the sun will be overhead at noon, and finding out how to make that pretty.
Were you involved in the decision to shoot at that location?
Yes.
Okay, so what were some of the other spots that you were looking at?
Just fields.
But you knew Hungary it was definitely going to be Hungary.
It was going to be Hungary, yeah. It had to be that because we built the entire village, and that was like a big budgetary expense.
Yeah.
And that was something that Hungary allowed us to do, that to build those beautiful the interior exteriors that it was all one place. We walked in to the house, and it was just magical walking in, and they were there, and you just walked in, and that's what you saw is, what you see in the movies, what we saw when you walked into these buildings, and it was just breathtaking.
Wow.
But there was no other way to do it anywhere else.
Did you build sets on studios at all for this?
Just some of the New York, the airplane was on the stage. A couple of sets, like for the
apartments and stuff.
Exactly, were built on stages. Yeah.
But once you get to the field, that's it. You're there for.
That's it. We're there. We're on this field for we're there for like a month and a half, I think.
Where did you guys stay? How far away were you from just regular civilization?
It was not far. It was like a 30-minute drive from Budapest. So
really,
yeah.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
We were very lucky to find that field. It was quite beautiful. I remember the first time I saw it, I was very, very excited, very happy. It was gorgeous.
There is so much 360 shooting in this. You are just constantly moving around. I kept thinking to myself, where are they staging themselves? Where are you guys? Like, were you constantly moving around, or did you have, were you able to stage in the woods somewhere, or how did that work?
It was hard. Behind the buildings, very often, right next to camera, behind every building is either crafty or electric and grip and Technicolor trucks or whatever. There's always so much gear, and it was impossible to get a lockdown on this. We'd shoot something and then a pickup truck, because base camp was 10-minute walk. It was just just behind the location, there was this big opening that had, base camp with most of the gear. So pickup trucks were driving back and forth to bring batteries and stuff. And it was just so impossible. We'll shoot a shot and then a pickup truck suddenly drives in oh, come on.
Oh my God, are you serious?
Yeah, it was no. So we'd have to do it again. And because they were trying, they're trying to bring the batteries to the camera that's about to die, but someone doesn't tell them that we're shooting. And it was just a constant battle because everything was so far away and big distances it was crazy. It was crazy.
Oh my God. That would be so annoying to get a shot and see the truck jump in.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'd be losing my mind.
Oh man. And then imagine that day after day, you're come on, can we get this lockdown on this thing?
Oh my God. Yeah. That is unbelievable. I love when movies at such high level deal with the same nonsense that somebody would be doing in a corporate situation. Just everybody struggles with the same craziness, even regardless of the budget.
Oh yeah. Nothing changes. It's it's the same madness. Maybe you just have more people around and there's more people to deal with and more shit to have around, but it's the same thing. It's crazy. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit more about lighting. You talked a bit about how you were dealing with the sun, but I want to get more details on that. So you aren't able to hang anything. So are you diffusing at all? Are you bouncing? How are you dealing with the sun?
So we did a very similar process to Hereditary, where with the gaffer and the key grip would go and do testing, 2 days of just testing to get to know one another, and then also to get to find the look of the movie. And then that's when we tested 18Ks outside in the sun in the field, direct, and 18Ks through diffusion and overheads. And the overheads obviously look beautiful, but I could only cover, to 20 by 4 or 5 people. And when in the movie do I have 4 or 5 people? Never. It's always 100 people there.
Yeah.
So I was okay, well, overheads look quite nice, but that's gone. That's not going to work. And then the 18K at 20 feet which is usually 30 feet, how far I had to have him out in the sun. direct were a little bit too harsh, and the shadows weren't pretty because they were fighting the sun because it was used to fill. And once you covered it with like a nice diffusion that it felt right, it wasn't doing anything.
Yeah.
So then we just did bounce and tested 20 by ultra bounce and 20 by muslin and bleach and unbleached muslin. And the muslin was the best one. Also because it felt like, their costumes were made out of that similar material. So it felt very organic, the way it blended in. So we just had, I think, 3 or 4 of those on set every day, 3 20 bys, 4 20 bys, to control the contrast at different distances from the camera and from the actors. Yeah.
Now, what was your schedule like for the day? Because you didn't have the sun out all day long and all evening long like you would if you were actually there in Sweden. So how did you break up your day?
Yeah, let me tell you a secret. The sun does not wait for filmmakers. It is crazy. It won't pause when it's at the right moment. It just it just keeps moving. Doesn't give a fuck about, but doesn't care about.
Exactly.
About you. So it was crazy. We had to do French hour days, where you just work through lunch, and it's a walking lunch, and you just do 10 hours, and after 10 hours, you just stop. And so we were there from 7:30 to 5:30, and by hopefully by 8:30 you're ready to shoot, which barely happened because the blocking was so intense. But the sun, anyways, was at the right height in the sky, and then by 5:30 it was starting to get into that sunset look that we didn't always want. So that was the perfect time, which is so we're avoiding sunset and sunrise, which is what usually people want to shoot in, like sunset and sunrise.
Of course, yeah.
And we were like, nope, that's what we're going to shoot in. We're just going to shoot because that's going to be the most consistent from scene to scene, was to shoot in those hours that are, the brightest. So that's what we went for. And we had 10 hours nonstop, just in this crazy heat of on this field. It was so brutal and so hot and just going.
Yeah, I'm always kind of thinking the practical stuff just because, I'm doing commercial work and certainly not anywhere near the level that you're doing it. But I'm always thinking of those things like, it's hot, like what sunscreen and people sweating and all, like you're outside in the brutal temperatures all day, all night. I mean, it's got to be exhausting, and just makeup alone, trying to keep these people from sweating, must have been such a challenge. I mean, did you have to deal with that on when you're shooting, when you're working with people? You must have had to deal with taking breaks constantly to get sweat off of people.
That and just the number of PAs to bring in umbrellas to cover all those people, because we couldn't have anything. Like once they were on these tables and we're rehearsing these intricate camera moves, like they had to be sitting there so we could see how it looks. So they're all sitting in the sun. So we had PAs with umbrellas, holding umbrellas over to shade them because we couldn't have anything else to shade them.
Yeah.
And then having everyone walk off set, and because we're seeing 160, 180 or almost 360, they had to everyone run behind the camera, and that took 5 minutes. So it was just everything took a long time to get to the actors and then come back and hide behind the camera or behind the building. And it was a tough movie. It was a really, really hard movie to film.
What was the most challenging scene? That's actually I should credit it because it's a good question. It's a question from one of our listeners, Izzy Lee on Facebook. She's a director in her own right, does a ton of horror stuff. She's great. And she had asked, what's the biggest challenge? She wanted to know the biggest challenge for both films, but we're just going to do this one because we kind of already did it before. But what would you say is the biggest challenge that you faced on Midsommar? And then how'd you overcome it?
I think the biggest challenge for me on Midsommar was shooting in the sunlight and letting go. So basically,
letting go
in the terms of everyone loves shooting sunset and sunrise, or sunrise and sunset, where it looks pretty. And I knew that I couldn't logistically to make things continuous. I had to shoot in the midday, and then I couldn't cover anything, so they would be, with noon sunlight at some point, and that would be that. And then also, the sun would keep moving and wouldn't wait for blocking or anything. So no matter how much I planned, there's a lot of things that would happen out of my control. So I had to learn to let go of, this perfect planning and perfect continuity, and trust that the story will be, it's fine if some light is not continuous, if the sunlight, isn't perfect all the time. It's not exactly how I want it. So I think letting go for me was of this dream of making it, more beautiful than it can be, and just trusting that it's going to be beautiful no matter what I do, with all the tests that I did. So letting go was, learning to let go was a big challenge for me.
You are listening to the PremiumBeat.com Song of the Week. It's called Above the Ocean by Evan McDonald. PremiumBeat.com is where to go for all of your royalty-free music and sound effects. If you go to PremiumBeat.com, you get access to a collection of thousands of royalty-free tracks for as low as $49 each. And you don't just get the track, you get cut downs and loop sets and stems. And that means you have full customization to fit this song into your project perfectly. And while you're there, check out the blog. It's called The Beat. It's an excellent resource for filmmakers, and you all will love it. So head over there, PremiumBeat.com, check out their songs and their blog. And lastly, we've got Rule Boston Camera. Rule Boston Camera is the place to go to purchase and rent all of your production equipment. They have an amazing inventory. These guys have everything. And I mean everything. They've been around for over 35 years, so of course you're going to expect for them to have a lot. But then when you actually see what they have, when you go to their warehouse and you see their facility, oh my God, it's ridiculous. I mean, everything you can imagine. Cameras, lighting, grip gear, communications, camera dynamics. Think about it. I mean, all the Hollywood films and TV shows that come through the Boston and New England area, they use Rule Boston Camera. So if it's good enough for the big boys, it's good enough for me too. You also can't beat them when it comes to service. You just can't. They are so dedicated to your project. It's unbelievable. I'm actually working with somebody over there right now for a project coming up in a couple months. And I'm going to be renting some equipment that I've never used before. And we're setting up a time to go and learn how to use it and do some testing with it. And I mean, that makes all the difference because I want to make sure that I totally understand what I'm taking out because I have a limited time on set to use this thing and I want to make sure it's working correctly. That's the kind of support and attention that you're going to get at Rule Boston Camera. So you got the inventory, you've got the customer support, and you have a perfect rental and purchasing experience. So head over there, rule.com, RULE.com. Let's talk about the camera package and lens package. What cameras did you test, and what did you ultimately land on?
We tested film. 35mm film. We tested the Alexa LF, and the regular Alexa, and the DXL2, Panavision DXL2, with many lenses, the Leica Simuluxes, the Master Primes, Cook S4s. We didn't do any anamorphic because we knew we didn't want to shoot anamorphic. We tested the Primos, and then for the DXL2, we tested large format Primo 70s and a whole bunch of different older Primos from Panavision. Older 65mm glass from Panavision.
Yeah.
And then when we saw the tests at Panavision on the big screen, both Ari and I agreed that the DXL2 felt the right way for the movie. It gave us the richness in the colors that we wanted, and it gave us the latitude in the whites that we wanted. And film was beautiful, but there was something clean about the digital that we really liked from Midsommar. It had this, and we couldn't afford to even test 65, large format film. So yeah, that was when we saw it. It was a DXL2 with the Primo 70s. And we then had worked with Brian, same lens tech that did the Hereditary, to adjust them a little bit to take off the edge, give me a little bit of softness in the highlights, and the way that the lens interacts with highlights. So we just worked on the lenses again to adjust them a little bit for my specific needs.
Yeah, I mean, you are really riding that line between really overexposure and proper exposure, I guess the only way to say it. I mean, your whites are so white. There's even a scene, it's near the end, where when we are inside the temple, I believe, and somebody's walking in from the outside, and it's completely blown out in the back. Like, it's gone. And you just see a person kind of walking through that blown out white. And I thought it was just so great. I mean, you must have had to tweak those lenses quite a bit. I know you're saying take the edge off, but it had a glow to it.
Yeah. We found this really nice look with the technicians at Panavision. They're awesome for doing these things for us, to tweak them that way.
Did you shoot 8K?
We did shoot 8K. As soon as they get to the village, it becomes 8K, and everything before that is regular Primo lenses on shooting 5K. So we just, once we get to the village, we open up a bit and use different, the large format lenses then to have a feeling of, a feeling of like a wider scope, feeling like a fantasy world that we walk into.
I see. Okay, so you switched to the large format and the 8K when you were in the village part, but the interiors and everything at the beginning, the New York stuff, was all 5K.
Yes.
Same 5K. Camera?
Same camera, 5K, just regular Primos, not large format Primo lenses.
I can only imagine the conversation. Panavision must have thought you guys were crazy. We want to shoot at the worst time of the day, and we want to just be as bright as possible. It's like, were they up for the challenge, or did they think you were insane?
They were up for they were excited. They're awesome that way, that they were just like, all right, let's do this. I mean, what really helped Ari created this magical lookbook. It was like almost 80 pages. It was like huge. And I remember showing it to Hugh at Panavision London, since we're getting the gear from in Europe. So he was the one who's going to greenlight these DXL2s for us, because they were only going on these huge Marvel movies, these cameras, and it was something that wouldn't go on an indie movie. But we showed them this lookbook and explained what we wanted to do, and showed them some tests. And I was like, look at these tests we shot. Like, don't you agree? Like, it looks so much better with the DXL2 than film even. And he was like, okay, I see what you guys are doing, and let's do it. Let's get DXL2s on this show. So yeah, it was, they were excited. They were very excited and it helped that they loved Hereditary, and they believed in us as filmmakers to give us this great package.
We've got an audience question from Jim Shields. And you may have answered some of this, but I'm just going to ask it in its entirety, and you can answer how you will. He says, how did you approach making a bright pastel, beautiful setting scary? And how does a crew prepare for some of the more intense scenes? What's it feel like in the moment when the actors are in that place of anguish? So there's a lot there, but I'm curious too. What are your thoughts to that?
to get this pastel bright look, it's testing. There's a costume testing. When they brought us a different thread, when they were doing the color in the costumes, they brought different colors, swatches, and we'd film them and we'd watch them together. The paint color, we'd film it and watch it together with the production designer and the art department to see how they reacted to the LUT and the camera and the lenses, to get the right look that we wanted. So everything is tested. And then when you're doing a difficult scene, it's just the focus is, there's a calm, there's a focus there. We had a very professional crew that just, it's nice to have a crew that's not talking when you cut, they just stay focused and stay quiet and respectful of the space that the actors need to be in that, because it's quite difficult. And they were very good of just giving those actors that space, because they had no trailers to go to. They were so far the trailers, so they stayed on set, and we were just very quiet and respectful, and kept going right away, and just waiting for the director to give him his notes and go right away quickly and shoot again. And it also helped that we shot most of the difficult scenes, intense scenes, a little later in the movie, so the crew really and the cast bonded and felt really confident that the cast had like a confidence towards the crew, and that was really great. That really helped.
I want to talk about the color of Midsommar. Yeah. Walk us through how you came to create that look that's in the film right now, color-wise.
That was we're trying to not emulate, not replicate 3-strip Technicolor look, but we were inspired by it, by Pawel Pogorzelski movies like Black Narcissus and Red Shoes, and that kind of Technicolor look is what we were inspired to create the look for Midsommar. Mm. Yeah.
And so inspired by Technicolor, but how did you achieve that in camera, or was everything basically in post?
No, we created a lot. We with Harbor, our colorist Joe Goller at Harbor. He in prep, we created a lot for the camera that's gonna emulate how we want the film to look. So we went back and forth sending him test footage, and then he would, with his color engineers, create a LUT for us and then send it to us, and we go in the field with that new LUT and have a look how the colors react, and then send him notes and create that LUT that becomes a base for the movie.
What were some of the qualities in the LUT that you were looking for to achieve that kind of Technicolor-inspired look?
Skin tones definitely were getting the right color on skin tones, the right texture on skin tones. Greens, the richness in the greens were something we were looking at, and just he did a beautiful job of cranking the saturation without just turning a knob. It felt rich, but it wasn't just let's just go saturation up. There's something he did to the image where he massaged the image. I don't know what that's their magic, that they made it look that way, that rich, without just cranking saturation up.
Yeah,
and that was really cool. Yeah.
And the saturation kind of gets even more and more throughout the film. I mean, near the end, there's a scene where the eyes open back up.
Yes.
And Now the May, was it the May?
May Queen.
May Queen. So after she's been crowned May Queen, and there's a whole series of events in which they both end up with their eyes closed, their eyes now open again, and we are in an even more colorful, even more kind of like fairyland looking environment. And I'm noticing the skin is different too. Like the skin is more golden, it's more sparkly, and the colors are richer, and it just seems to progress more and more as the film goes on.
Nice. Yeah, you noticed that. That's crazy. There's like subtle little touches that we're not sure if people will pick up on those. But yeah, definitely, definitely something we did. When the eyes open up, we made it even more fairy tale like, even more like richer and golden. So yeah.
Now, is that something was that something, that golden kind of look on her face and all that, was that something you guys were doing? Were you consistently changing that LUT throughout throughout shooting, or was that done practically with, different lights, or how did you approach that?
Lighting, time of the day, those things were very important for me to put my foot down on getting that at the right time of the day, to get it already in a negative to be a bit more golden, so the sun was a bit lower, and that I really wanted it to be, it's a big scene and a lot happens, and we had to shoot at different times at the day, but I really wanted that on her to be. So already the negative was just, the sun was richer, and then in post we just augmented the colors a little more.
Yeah, that third act it gets more and more crazy as you go, and there's a lot there. You're dealing with fire, you're dealing with brighter colors, more pastels if it can be.
Yeah.
And in some ways, even harsher light. Like one of the things that stood out to me, and I was thinking to myself, why would they do this to themselves? But the dinner scene at the Mayfair, I'm just going to call it, the table is all it's reflective, the entire table, and I'm thinking to myself, why would they do that to themselves? How did that decision come to be? Or were you? I mean, that's just nuts.
I mean, it's Ari just kept throwing oh, how about this for a challenge, Pawel? Oh yeah, how about this? Oh yeah, and let's do this gigantic glass table for the end. I'm like, oh my God, it was a nightmare. But you know what? I love being all right, let's try it. Let's do it. Let's if you're not scared. For me, on Hereditary, I was petrified, and on Midsommar, I was petrified. But you're taking these risks, and you're like, okay, let's try it. It's better to try it than it sounds like a beautiful idea. So if it serves the story, it has, it's there for a reason, and it's there for a good story reason. So I'll have to just wrap my head around it. And, it was a lot of moving food out of the way to cover the glass where it's out of frame, and so that the people could have their eyes open. Because even trying to keep people's eyes open was like a nightmare around that table.
Yeah. The reflections alone. I was looking under their chins to see if there was going to be just tons of shadowing and reflection there. I mean, what a nightmare.
It was a total nightmare, but hey, we survived it.
You certainly did.
And that was on film, so yeah, that's dope.
I've got one more Midsommar specific question, and then one last audience question, if you have a couple of minutes.
Yeah, for sure.
That drive, as they're entering the field where the ceremony is going to be, there is a shot that kind of goes from behind the car all the way overhead. It's then upside down, and it follows the car through. I'd love to know how you achieved that shot.
That's a good question. What do you think?
Oh, Jesus. At first, I'm thinking, well, you must be on, You must be on a crane somehow behind the car, but then when it went completely above it, and then you saw behind the car, I was thinking, well, is it on the side? But no, because it's a narrow road with trees on either side. So I was completely lost. I thought maybe it got stitched in the middle. I didn't know.
It was just a drone shot where we explained the shot. This took also a lot of time to get. Where we explained the shot to our drone people in Hungary, and they were super nice. Like when we met them, they built their own drone and like really had like full control of their drone. They had this big drone that could take the mini. Obviously, the XL2 is a gigantic monster,
Sure,
and
yeah.
we couldn't put that on. But we decided to shoot on the mini, but they're I think they're using not the Movi but the Ronin head on their drone,
Okay.
and they couldn't do that entire flip. So I did some research and I found a video that did like 130 degree flip or 120 something degree, from like front to back. And then I sent that to them, and they had to then like find this computer guy who would like change the software in the Ronin to make that happen. And so it was quite a process. And then like, shooting it alone was quite a nightmare. We were flying the drone at its max speed, following this car, and then getting that perfect arc, and then, landing in that right position and making it feel almost like a crane shot took quite a bit of time. And we almost got it perfect, and they're like, okay, that's it. They were sweating balls because there's two, like one drone operator, one camera operator. They were sweating balls, and like, okay, that's it. We got it. Like we've done this. Like I'm like, one more. I feel like we're so close to being perfect. Let's try one more. And then we that last one was like, we got it, and they're like, okay, we're turning off the drone. We got it. This is done. We're going home. That was perfect. We can't do better than that. Like they were like blue in their face from holding their breath. It was awesome. I hope they're proud of it. I hope when they watch the movie, they're proud of it.
Well, it looked like a crane until it became impossible for it to be a crane, and then I was like, I don't know what this is. So,
yeah.
Really, really nice job.
What we're going for, is to try to, trying to make it look like a crane without being a crane.
Okay, so last couple of questions. Jose, I apologize. I'm going to mispronounce your name, but I'm going to say it phonetically. Jose Mojica on Twitter is asking about the future of cinema. He's asking, where do you think things are headed? Is it going to be 8K? Is it going to be long takes, VR? Where are you seeing the future of cinema right now?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Wow. Great question, Jose. Where do I see? I don't know. But one thing is for sure that storytelling is there to stay, because it might evolve, but it's a form that I think made our species come to where we are today. Storytelling around the fire was a huge part of it, and I think still today storytelling is a huge part of passing on a certain message, and I think it will still be there as long as we live in many forms, and it might evolve. I think still like with film, I don't think the golden age is gone. There's still so much to explore of what is happening today in the world, and how we live as human beings on this planet with storytelling. There's still a lot to say, and it might be more integrated with perhaps interactive or augmented or video games, but also like just pure storytelling. There's a satisfaction of just getting that, there's just still a great joy to read a book. There's still a great joy to just watch a movie and be lost in that world. it gives you, it's almost meditative, like it lets you escape. And so I don't see that changing just yet.
I love that. We just had on Matthew Lloyd, the DP for Spider-Man Far From Home. And I was telling him when I was in the theater watching it, like the whole thing is, it's wall-to-wall visual effects. It's crazy. But the part that got the biggest applause is when our two main characters hold hands. The simplest, like almost nothing little shot was the one that got the biggest round of applause. And it's just, it really does put it into perspective that it's always going to be story, no matter what.
I'm looking at a movie now in New Orleans, and we watched, like I go and watch these Marvel movies. They're cool. And the director made me watch Neverending Story.
Oh, yeah.
And I was blown away. Like some of the visuals, the VFX and the animatronics are, look a little bit dated, but just that, like, the adventure in it and the fantasy world was so real and so great. And because it was built, it was like a lot of the practical stuff I find like makes me want to believe it more than like that CG. You feel the CG so much. I don't know. There's something about it that bugs me a little bit when it's too much CG and everything is CG. It doesn't allow me to fully get immersed in the movie.
Yeah, I can see that. It can be a barrier for sure. Is there like one piece of gear? It could be big or small, expensive or nothing at all. Just something that you have to have with you on every shoot.
Yeah, I have this little notebook, a pocket moleskin, just because I really fell in love with that size. The little tiny one where I'll write down one on each page, maybe one or two scenes with a short description, time of day. And then I have that in my pocket. And when we're shooting out of order, which always happens in movies, I just can quickly reference some thoughts that I have about each scene and what time of day I see them, just so I know what are, if we're shooting scene 73, I'm like, what was scene 71, 72 leading up to this? And I can, or 70, 71, 72. And then I can quickly flip to the script and then also see what the following scenes are and be, okay, I see now, like where the visual journey is going, just to keep reminding me, and I'll write very quick notes and some like visual notes that I have, and it keeps me on track with like a visual progression of the story, of the visual storytelling also.
There you go.
And the character's journey. So yeah, that's my little trick that I have with me.
It can't be any simpler than that. Just a little notebook. Look at that. So you don't need thousands and thousands of dollars for gear. You just need a little notebook sometimes.
That's right. Exactly.
Pawel, thank you so much for being on Go Creative Show. Clearly this is a hit. It's already becoming. Look, they just A24 just announced that toy, the limited edition bear in a cage toy. So this is going to be the Halloween costume of the year for sure. People are already wearing their imitations of the Midsommar like wardrobe and doing crazy things on Twitter. You guys have a hit on your hands, and you are deserving of all the accolades that are about to come because it's absolutely fantastic. So thank you so much for being on.
Thank you so much. This is a great conversation. Thank you so much. You're wonderful to talk to. So thank you.
There he goes. Pawel Pogorzelski. His work is so good. Those movies are so good. I want to thank two people that are also so good and make this show happen every single week. We've got our producer, Connor Crosby. You can find him at ignitionvisuals.com, and Matt Russell. He is at gainstructure.com. He mixes, masters, and makes this show sound so delicious. You can also find him on Twitter at GainStructure. And of course, follow us at Go Creative Show everywhere you want to be. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, it's all there. We're there. And it's a great opportunity to get your voice heard on the show because you can ask questions for our upcoming guests. How about that? How fun! course, I want to thank our sponsors, Hedge.video, Rule Boston Camera, Magnanimous Rentals, Shutterstock, and Premium Beat. Without these people, the show wouldn't exist, so please support those that support us, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.